Yeah, against this right back, Charlie, definitely.
There's always just that actual red flag defending. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on. I mean, with an introduction like that, what more can I say? People deluded, I'm back again. I got Big H in the building. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel. Every bit of information is in the description. His Twitter, his YouTube, all of that stuff. All you have to actually do is click the title and subscribe. Let's get the subscribers up, man. If you didn't know, he's a Liverpool fan. What you saying, my guy? We've got a lot to discuss in this half hour.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. Big up everyone watching as well. Make sure you guys are liking. Make sure you guys are subscribing as well to the channel. So big up for having me. And can't wait for the Premier League to come back. I'm so tired of this international break already.
I echo your thoughts on the international break. I love if Arsenal players score and, up boys play bad so we can run agendas, but it's nothing like the Premier League. Let's kick off a bit differently. I'm going to ask you about Liverpool and the Premier League, but as you know, on Twitter, I ask people for some questions and topics and all of that sort of stuff. And something got my attention. Like, what's this about, bro? What's this about? I'm seeing worst Premier League 11 this season, and cool. I have two players I disagree with. I can't disagree with Havertz, but I see Trent. I don't agree with that necessarily, and I definitely don't agree with this, especially when there's certain youths called Anthony and that. What's going on over here, bro? What's all of this about?
I mean, this wasn't just me. This was panelists who voted for this as well. We kind of made it top 6 centric, because if me and you are honest, if we just want to do like worst in the entire league, we just put the Luton 11. But we have to like include that.
You never deserved that, man.
So with Saka, I think Saka is a fantastic player and stuff, but I was one of the people who did vote him in, and that's because we have an expectation level of Saka. And listen, Anthony's
I'm listening.
We all know Anthony's crap completely, like just garbage. But with Saka, there is a base level of expectation. And the last 3 games, he just hasn't played well. Like the United game, he dropped a stinker. Against Fulham, he was real bad. Yes, he was. Don't even try. If you're going to tell me assist, then
go on, my bro. Go on. I'll let you talk, then I'll offer mine, innit? Wow.
So for me personally, my one, I didn't have Trent in. And I had...
Of course you wouldn't, mate.
Yeah, of course I did. And I had Disasi in there instead of Lisandro Martinez. But I think the rest is fair enough. I mean, Bruno's been crap as well for Man United, and he's the captain. And you see, earlier on when you asked about Saka, I told you base level of expectation. There's an expectation level with Bruno, and he ain't hitting it, so he has to be there.
No, ultimately, if we're going by that and people voted Trent, Bruno, and obviously Saka, I can't argue with that if he's ultimately dying by the high standards he set. But, a true metrics of a footballer, and bearing in mind, I think he's got 3 goal assist contributions. The true mark of a footballer is how they perform when they're not playing well. He gave the ball away against Fulham, which Ramsdale's kind of being held accountable for. He was obviously involved in 2 goals in that game. Didn't have the best of games against United. He popped up, took a corner, and obviously Declan Rice bagged. You said 3 games, so that's what? Man United, that's Man United, that's Fulham, and that's either Crystal Palace or Forest. Either way, I don't agree with that, man. Saka, it's all right because we got the PFA, we got the England award. Mohamed Salah might leave one day. You lot would love the guy, but yeah, all right, cool. I can't disagree with Havertz. What do you make of Havertz as well, by the way? Because it's nice because I can offer Havertz thoughts. We both know Chelsea supporters. They could waffle about Havertz. You've got no reason to not say anything or have an agenda against Havertz. What did you make of the signing of Havertz, and what have you made of him as a neutral looking at Arsenal so far?
When Chelsea sold Mount and Havertz, there were people who said Havertz would do well. There were people who said Mount would do well. And I'm in the third camp. I thought both weren't going to do well for their football clubs. I think this is the hill that Arteta might need to eventually die on, because it's just like, I don't think it genuinely makes no sense to me. I think that 60 million could have been spent a lot smarter elsewhere, in my opinion. I don't see how he fits in the midfield. I think against Forest, to be fair, he had a good game against Forest, in my opinion. But then after that, it's been kind of downhill for Havertz. I don't think he's played well at all. Against Man United, I was supporting Arsenal in that game because the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Amen.
And that Havertz volley where he just kicked the air I just lost my mind. I even tweeted out, Havertz, you donkey. I was so invested. And he just kicked the air for some God knows what reason. So I don't rate Havertz from his Chelsea days. And I think right now, this is a transfer that kind of doesn't make sense. And I'm glad you agree that he does belong in this team because he hasn't performed well at all so far for Arsenal.
No, I mean, Havertz is definitely there. I think I look at it on two folds. I look at it in that when you look at the underlying metrics, you know, the pressing, the running, the contributions, I think Arteta, especially with the system he's developing and the players that he plays with, I think they'll have an appreciation for Havertz. But at the same time, I want you to be able to do that and just play well. And again, I do give you an excuse of you're adapting to the team and all that jazz, but you've got a wealth of experience coming into this Arsenal team. Obviously, you're filling the void of Granit Xhaka. And for all them other metrics, I need to be able to see that and see what you're doing. And I think the game kind of passed him by. I think he fits in. He doesn't necessarily stand out. I agree with what you're saying in that, you know, I back my manager. Mikel Arteta knows more about football than I could ever dream of. So if that's who you wanted, that's who you want. But that's the hill you're going to die on. I think if people offered us Declan Rice, if people offered us Timber, and obviously David Raya, you could see how, you know, they're going to get us closer to City. Not by a long way, but in their own little ways, they're going to bring us a couple percentages. With Havertz, you can't exactly see that at the moment. I'll give him the luxury of it's been 4 games, but I just can't see it at this moment in time. And I agree with what you're saying in that I can't sit here and list a bunch of midfielders. But if we were sitting here and talking about how Arsenal upgrade their midfield, I wasn't going to say Kai Havertz. I definitely wouldn't. You know, it's almost like Arteta at times wants to be Captain Save-A-Hole. Any player that seems to be having some issues, he wants to show them a bit of love. So, you know, at the end of the day, he plays for Arsenal Football Club, so I support him. But if it continues, then we're going to have to change. And I think with the United game, he obviously lost the ball. I'm not necessarily going to get onto a footballer for losing the ball because it happens, but it's just another sort of mistake that you've made. I think other players could have done better. And for me, it's the finishing because there's been games he's played okay, like the Community Shield. But you mentioned Man United. There was one against Fulham, and obviously Manchester City as well. He needs to get his shooting boots. Now, Arteta's shown he can do that with Martinelli, Saka, and Odegaard. For Havertz, I don't know how it gets. We've got young Fabio Vieira now that's looked decent in his cameos. I don't know when his chance is going to happen, but it's getting to that scenario now, really and truly. And even with me, one comment I always make, for all his criticisms at Chelsea, for all his criticisms at other clubs, at Leverkusen or whatever, and at Arsenal, he looks a completely different player for Germany. And he done that a few days ago, or yesterday, in fact. So I want him to just come back with some confidence. But at the end of the day, if we want to beat City, and you know yourself, when Liverpool in their prime, you won a battle, you didn't necessarily win the war. But when you won the Prem, that's because you had to get them extra percentages. City don't leave anything up for debate. And we've already dropped 2 points. You know, City are the only team that's taken maximum points. We're going to need to get our act together. I can't disagree with anything with that. I think you lot are harsh on Onana as well. I think you lot are harsh on Levi Colwill there. Chilwell's kind of playing out of position. I'm never going to disagree with Richarlison slander. Caicedo, the game's the game. You turfed us in January. You've dropped 2 clangers. Declan Rice. So I'm here for it, innit? The game's the game. And he turfed you, man. So the game's the game, innit? I'm here for that. Next question. And I think this is actually a good question, actually. Is the lack of a genuine 6 a cause for concern for Liverpool?
I mean, first of all, Onana was dropping it down real low for Awoniyi, so he definitely deserves.
He's got more yellow cards than clean sheets, so I'm here to push agendas. I don't mind.
He was trying to do the WWE impression. First game, clothesline from hell. Play JBL's music on that goal right there. But with the Liverpool Football Club, yes, we do have a problem with the lack of 6. I think the Endo signing is a joke, to be honest with you. I don't know. Whoever the hell sanctioned that transfer.
And on him as well. What have you made of him? Because I ain't seen him play. I know there was rumors he played in a friendly and stuff. What do you make of the lack of number 6, as you were saying? And what do you make of the Endo guy? Because it's gone from Tchouameni, Caicedo, Bellingham, who's not a 6, but he's a higher level midfielder, to Mr. Endo, really. Because I know you're critical on FSG and everything, and I watched your videos, you've been very consistent with everything you've said around the spending and even actually Jurgen Klopp's kind of role to play in it.
Listen, this Endo thing, I'm going against a lot of my fan base because there is a bit of roboticism in which there's parts of the fans that disagree with anything the club does. Personally, that Endo signing for me, look, I've been watching football for 20 years. I don't need 15 games of a player to know if he's good or not. 5 minutes in, I just know Endo ain't that guy. He's just average, nothing really special about him, to be honest with you. And the problem is, I don't think it's even something he can control. He has a pace and power problem. And whether we like it or not, in the Premier League, you need PNP.
You need that,
Like,
yeah, you need that.
100%. So if you're a DM, you definitely need some PNP in there, or at least power, at least minimum power, even if you don't have pace. So for me, I think that's the biggest problem with them. I don't like the signing. Stuttgart played a low block in the Bundesliga, so that kind of helped his numbers a little bit. But for me, I think the signing is just, it screams mediocrity. So I don't like that signing at all. The Szoboszlai signing, I'm extremely happy with. The McAllister signing, I'm extremely happy with. Both of them.
Another ball.
For me, it's after Szoboszlai is the part that doesn't make sense to me, because all we needed was a DM and a centre back. We ended up signing another 8 in Gravenberg, and we ended up signing Endo, who some people are saying now is kind of the guy who's gonna play like multiple positions and just come in when we need like reassurance in a game or something like that. So for me, I just don't understand it personally. We clearly always at Liverpool, we like to do 3-quarter windows, which is we always like to leave something missing.
Gomez and Matip, I know, man.
Fact. Gomez and Matip, I know they got a clean sheet against Aston Villa, but I still don't trust them, you know. Infamously, Ice Spice and Bambi on ice right there. So until they earn my trust back, I can't be confident. I can't be confident. I think we have a strong starting 11, but outside that, the depth is the problem. The depth is the issue.
But that seems to have always been an issue when I speak to my Liverpool supporting friends and family. Like, even when you lot were top of the pops and really fighting City in that, you had a good 11, and then you did have a couple players you could bring off the bench. But I think Liverpool fans have been kind of consistent in that you would like depth. I mean, every football fan in an ideal world would like 2 for each position. Whether that's possible is another thing. What have you? I completely forgot you lot signed Gravenberch as well. What have you made of that? Because that was one that 1 minute is United, then he's going Liverpool, then it kind of went quiet. Then obviously you got him in. Like, what do you make of that? And what do you make of your new look midfield? Because obviously we've touched on the 6. I do think Fabinho's probably missed. I think Henderson's best days are behind him, but you could argue he may or may not be missed. What have you made of how this changes your midfield and ultimately how it ties into how you perform in the Prem?
I mean, with Henderson, there is no argument. Thank God he's gone. I was so happy when we sold him. Oh, thank God.
He's getting that Saudi money. I can't blame him, man. Getting a check.
Fact. Fabinho is the one that I wanted us to keep, because the midfield 3 of Fabinho, McAllister, and Szoboszlai. And it's funny because we were talking about United earlier on. I think they're doing to Casemiro this season what we did to Fabinho last year, which is basically give him 50 acres of space to cover, which he's not capable of because of the 8s not being dynamic enough. And I think Szoboszlai and McAllister were dynamic enough for Fabinho to do a job, do a role for us. And listen, at the point in time, he was the best DM in the world, so he has that level to go up still. But for me, with Gravenberch, I said Szoboszlai, I was extremely happy. McAllister extremely happy. Endo disappointed. With Gravenberch, I'm kind of indifferent about it because it's like, okay, but it's not what we need type of thing. Because at that moment in time, we needed a DM, we needed a centre back, and we ended up signing Gravenberch. So I think Klopp probably is looking to play McAllister in the DM this season. And this is what actually he's done multiple times so far. I think he's
People
looking
hear that and not understand what you mean by that. In that he plays in a 6. Obviously, he play it a bit differently. It won't quite be like Fabinho, because people hear that comment. I know what you mean, but they'll just think, "Oh, what's he talking about? He's moving mad." That you're right. Still, that's a good shout.
Yeah, I think McAllister is going to play DM, so it's going to be a McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai probably midfield. Maybe Thiago comes in there for Gravenberch at a point in time. But look, Gravenberch left Bayern Munich because he wasn't getting game time. So I doubt he's going to come to Liverpool to sit on the bench. So I think he's probably had a conversation with Klopp, probably going to start in that midfield, play a massive role this season. So for me, the Gravenberch signing, we did snatch United's chain, but this is nothing new. We snatched their chain with Gakpo, we snatched their chain with Nunez, and they scored 4 goals in the 7-0 win. So listen, we all know we're the real owners of Man United. So until we decide to sell the club, the Glazers are going to be there. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Gravenberch.
Oh man, I love the United slander, man. Big up all the United fans enjoying the banter as well. This is a good question as well, man. Does this Arsenal side remind you the way Liverpool evolved? In brackets, not comparing how good as they were, unbelievable, just the evolutionary steps.
I'm gonna shock you right now, like I shock many Arsenal fans. I think Arsenal are gonna win the league this season, and I think. Yes, I do. I really believe it. I don't think.
Listen, I hope so, man. I hope so. Let's just win our games and see where we are in May. But go on, man.
I don't think City are gonna win 4 in a row, because there's a reason why 4 in a row hasn't been achieved. Now, you would say Pep Guardiola and blah 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 and all of that, and I understand it. but I just don't see them winning 4 Premier Leagues in a row. And I don't think Arsenal, for me, I look at the 2 teams that could contend with Man City. It's us and Arsenal. I think we have a better starting 11, but Arsenal have the stronger depth, stronger options to bring off the bench. Like when you look at your centre-back depth, the Kiviors, the Tomiyasus, you look at your midfield depth, the Jorginhos, the Emil Smith-Rowe's. I think the one place where we probably beat you for depth is the forward line, because I think our forward line is unbelievable for me. But because we've got 5-6 options who can all score goals.
What depth? It might be a bit even. Obviously, on quality, Salah in it. None of our players really talk to them as much as I like Saka. You have got Szoboszlai, I guess, could play out wide. I think it's quite even, you know.
Got Salah, got Gakpo, Jota, Nunez, and
Luis
Diaz.
What? I'm forgetting about bare of the guys that you got, you know. Yeah, you know what? Yeah. You might have a point still. I'm trying. Yeah, you know what? Because what?
I think our forward line options are stronger, but the rest of the team, I'd say Arsenal have the stronger depth. That's why I have Arsenal for me. Because at the end of the day, in a title race, you need depth, as you yourself found out last season.
And the season before, where we missed out on top 4, bro, because we relied on a couple of players for far too long.
Facts. Depth is important in the English Premier League. Like all this starting 11s, they could get you to a certain point, but I don't even need to theorize. Konate has already gotten an injury. Thiago is recovering from an injury. Like that's why
he's a bit like Pogba. A bit like Partey or Pogba as well. And that know they're going to get a couple of injuries throughout the season, really, for whatever reason. You're right, still.
100%. Right. I'm not going to sit up here and live in a utopian world where there is no injuries. Injuries are going to happen to every football club.
It's like a chef in their hands.
Do I think we're ready when an injury happens? No. That's why I don't have us winning the league.
Do you know what? I hear that, but like, for people that want specifics, why don't you think Man City will do it 4 times? Because many people say, you know, they've let a couple of players go. And I do think it's a delicate scenario. We've all played Football Manager where you've won a treble. You might think your players are better than they actually are. You don't necessarily bring in players that move the needle. And then you kind of have a underwhelming season. I know if City win the Prem and all the champs, people might say that's a good season. They might say it's underwhelming because they're comparing it to a treble. But why don't you think they'll win it a 4th time? I hope so, because it's a bit boring, man. Like City are just bullying, Pep's just bullying. Like I don't mind it because I don't know any City fans. I know Liverpool, United, etc., and Spurs fans. So if anyone's got to win it, I don't mind City winning it. I don't know them, but yeah, why don't you think they'll win it 4 times? A 4p.
I mean, with me, first of all, even last season, I wanted Arsenal to win the league over City. I think here's my problem with that whole logic. The logic of we don't care about City, I think we will learn to care at a point in time, because if they keep winning leagues at this rate, they get to 14, 15 leagues, this whole conversation can become uncomfortable for
but bro, I don't know their fans. Like, I hear you, but I don't know their fans. I don't like. Come on, you grow up with your cousins and the banter and that. I don't know Liverpool City fans, man. I'd definitely rather City do it than anyone but Arsenal. But yeah, it don't really. Yeah, man, I don't really know. And I'm not even saying that as a disrespect. I literally don't. You know, Man United fans, they'll never let you hear the end of it. Just like the League Cup, Arsenal fans could definitely be unbearable. Liverpool fans could do the same. Spurs would probably be the worst, but we can dismiss them from that conversation. So you're right, but what is it? Is it tactically? Do you think they're found out? Do you think some of their players have stagnated? Do you just don't think it's a thing?
I think City are going to win the Champions League this season. I think they'll go back to back in the UCL. I just don't think they're going to win the Prem. I think I'm just saying from a motivational level perspective, I just don't think they'll have it this season. Yes, Pep's a fantastic manager and blah, 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 because I know the Pep sexuals get insulted anytime anyone says anything about Man City, but I just don't think City are going to win the league this season, just purely from a motivational perspective. And also, KDB's out as well, so you've got injuries there.
Big loss.
Haaland doesn't score in the big games anyway, so Gundogan ain't there. So, yeah, I don't think it's as good as last season, their team, so I think it'll probably take them a year to get back to that level.
I mean, I can share your thoughts in the sense of, you know, they've lost some players, they've got some injuries, but I do think there's scope for other players to step up, like Alvarez, who, you know, if I was Arteta, I'd be calling that man's phone saying, listen, join Zinchenko and Jesus, come over here, it could be lit. The thing with City is, it's like they're just up here and everyone's down there. And as you know, in previous years, as good or as bad as people might think Arsenal might have been, you know, prior to City, we would have won the Prem. Unfortunately, you're playing this juggernaut. And I just think with us, I hope we can win the league. I just feel that, you know, City will drop points. but we are going to drop points. And I just feel at their worst, they're better than a lot of people. I think a bit like Man United, unfortunately, if I had to criticize my team, I think we've got this element of shooting ourselves in the foot, really, as shown with the Man United game where, quote unquote, it was a nothing game of sorts and it exploded into life, but we were the more dominant team. We had possession, you know, when Onana and Lissandro Martinez had the ball, it was really players in areas that aren't going to harm you. But then on the transition for the first goal, you saw what we kind of did. You know, if it wasn't for Gabriel, you know, it might have been a very different story. I just think we have that element. You look at the Fulham game, which you mentioned, we came back from behind, but then we dropped 2 points in 3 minutes from time from a set piece. I look at the Nottingham Forest game, which was you know, a one-way traffic sort of thing, but we conceded a dumb goal. Now, people say I'm a stickler. I look for things where they're not. It's not because I want to find faults. It's when you're playing City, you can't just waffle, or fighting them for a title, allegedly. You can't just waffle about what you're good at. It's what you're bad at, because the margins for error are not quite there. Yeah, man. Like it's crazy playing City, man. Like,
okay,
for me, honestly,
genuinely, wouldn't you say winning the game against Man United in that fashion is a sign of a team that can win the Premier League? Because you scored two goals, 90 plus minutes. That's not easy.
Don't get it twisted. I think that's a thing that we've installed in the last 18 months, 2 years, in that we never say never. We fight to the death, and we've seen that what Aston Villa last year, Man United Man United at the Emirates, last year, and things like that. There's, you know, Bournemouth. There's been times with that, but then when I remove the romance around it and the entertainment of the Premier League, we're making games harder than it needs to be. Look at when we played you lot at Anfield. You know, again, if it wasn't for Ramsdale and Salah allowing us, boy, it might have been a very different game. At 2-0, you either have to get that third. I don't think we lost that because of dropped 2 points because of the fans and all of that. I think it plays a part, but I just think we're naive. And if you're going to perform like that, you can't really fight City, really and truly. If you want to win the league, you need to go to Anfield, to Old Trafford and all these places and get results. If you find yourselves 2 goals up at Anfield, not to overgas your team and whatnot, just to be honest, you need to come away with something. And we did. On one hand, we came away with a point. You offered me a point before the game. I'd have bit your arm off for it. But it felt like a defeat in the way we threw it away. And in the second half, first half, it was even. Second half, we was at you lot's mercy. Fortunately for us, once again, Salah missed a penalty in that. And that's the only thing. I think at our best, I think we can give everybody a game. But it's also about how you are at your worst. And there's times where we do silly stuff. And, you know, you look at Brentford last season where VAR did us dirty, but we didn't get 3 points. If we was to go through all of those silly points that we dropped, how much closer would we be to City? And that's also the one thing that we haven't shown that you lot showed when you lot were fighting City for the league, is that you lot can kind of go toe to toe with them. You know, I don't want to belittle my team, but if we beat City, that's very surprising for everybody. When it was Liverpool versus City, fair enough. If City win, City win. If Liverpool win, they win. It's not really a shocker. That's now where we need to kind of get to, really and truly. And I think we're in a unique position in that, you know, you lot had Mane and Salah putting up very decent numbers. I know there's players in Arsenal's teams that obviously does get numbers, but we don't have a bagsman or a bags person like that, you know, like in a sense of Salah's not a striker, but he's giving you 20 league goals minimum or something of that nature. Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, they did it last season. Saka's the only one that's done it for 2 years. I'm a big fan of Gabriel Jesus, and he did have injuries, but 11 goals. I need to know what's going on. And obviously, we've lost Xhaka. I think we miss Xhaka, really. I think the fact that we have gone with this Havertz stuff probably means I'm over gassing Xhaka a bit, but we're missing Xhaka. And also, in terms of his mentality and all of that, he scored 7, 8, 9 Premier League goals. If we could go from being a team that got 80-odd goals last year, I believe, to 100, that turns some defeats into draws, some draws into wins. And as we've discussed, you know, you've got to try and get any point you can against Manchester City, really and truly. So I hear that, man. Going back to this question.
The Fulham game, though, 99% of the time, you would win the Fulham game. Like 99%.
Yeah, but the one time it don't, bro. And obviously, if you're fighting City, you've got to be targeting. I know whatever happens in the season happens, but for my logic, sitting here in September / in August, if I want to win a league against City, as impossible it might be or not, I have to target in my head 90 points. Anything less than getting around 90 points, in my opinion, you can forget about it. So with the good, the bad, and the ugly, because there's a lot of good things we could waffle about with Arsenal. Do I believe we could get 90-odd points? I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's a big ask because we have this element of capitulation. And I think it's actually shown in that. Obviously, there's games away from home we're a bit shaky. We just spoke about Anfield. But I just think, and I don't know why, but there's a contrast between how we play at the Emirates and how we play away from home. I think at the Emirates, we're more entertaining for the neutrals. Like if you was watching Arsenal, Man United, there was plenty of great moments there. Away from home, in a good way, we're boring. And I don't know if that's because you got to respect the away fans. You got to be a bit more focused. I don't know if it's because because at the Emirates, we're at home, we're a bit more front-footed, we're a bit more ambitious, but it's them kind of things there that we need to do better. And obviously, we don't. It's a bit silly because Arteta did take the Europa League seriously, did name a strong team. We have to, City have lost players, but they've got a strong squad. We're playing difficult games on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and the Saturday, Sunday. Let's just say, for argument's sake, Saturday, Sunday must win against Liverpool.
You do have an easy group, though, to be fair. You do have
say that, but Lens finished, second in Liga? Forgive me if I'm wrong. PSV beat us last year.
You cannot be doing Lens prop, brother.
It's not, but no one's in the Champions League for no reason, man. Tough game.
Hey, when you sit on big boy table, you've got to be ready. Your group, I've spoken to Arsenal fans on a
I'm doing the Liverpool thing.
This is a Europa League level group. Porto,
it's not.
Not Porto, sorry. Sevilla, Europa League.
Europa League champions. They earned the right. Very difficult games, my
friend. And RC Lens, is that a Europa League team or not?
Did Lens not finish second in Liga? That's difficult, man. That's very difficult.
You're so shameless.
You gotta be. Listen, nobody was given Champions League football. They had to earn it. There's no easy games in football now. But on a serious note, it is a group that we should be getting out. For me, I want to make the latter stages of the Champions League. Of course, I'd love to win it. I want to go beyond the last 16. But if you were to get, I don't know, Real Madrid in the last 16, you give it as good as you got, you're out, fair enough. But I just think it's not embarrassing ourselves, because the Champions League's missed us. The 8-2s, listen, I'll have PTSD. Let's not do examples in it. Premier League's missed us. Champions League's missed us. I don't want to be doing any of that. And that's what I mean. It's like, if you've got a must win on the Tuesday, Wednesday, the knockout stages, and we're playing a conventional top 6, how do you differentiate? Are you able to get 6 points across the two competitions? These are things I can't answer really and truly. I think I do see similarities to answer this question between Arsenal and Liverpool, but in many ways it's very different. I think you lot had more. How do I make it make sense? And not to belittle my team, because I think we do. I just think at the time you lot had more match winners. You had more. Salah was a match winner. Mane was a match winner. Firmino weren't a goal scorer like that, but he had the element of making things happen. I do, in our comparison, that would be the Sakas, the Odegaards, but I just don't think it's there. I think you lot have significantly more experienced players, and unfortunately, it's young men going against seasoned vets when you compare Arsenal to City. Them not have been there, done it, wore the t-shirt via age and achievements. We're hoping to do that. And as I said, like last season, for me, no matter how good City were, we bottled it ourselves. We threw it away ourselves, not just because of how it ended, but in the games like Brentford, in the games like Liverpool, in the games like Southampton, in the games like West Ham. That's why I'm saying, to go back to what we said about beating City, yeah, City can drop points, but we need to be taking it, because we've already dropped 2 now, and we will drop more. It's football. I'm not criticizing us for it. But yeah, next question for you, which is a good one, man. Saudi coming back for Salah soon. Would it be a good one? And then, well, yeah, let's answer that half of the question first, man, because obviously Salah had a big bid, and I see your tweets. You were not having any of it selling Salah, man.
I mean, the reason why I don't want to sell Salah is something that you probably saw on your timeline. The replacement's going to be Jared Bowen. So I'd rather, I don't even want to say. Yeah, exactly. I don't even want to say what I do, because, I don't want to get you demonetized. But I want to keep Mo Salah under all circumstances. If you want to ever be a team that wins big competitions, you keep your best
man
player.
Like that.
Yeah, 100%. And I look at Mo Salah as a Lewandowski. I think Mo Salah, because he takes football seriously. He doesn't drink alcohol. He's like, he trains physically really well. He's also, I hope this continues, someone who doesn't get injuries. So I think he could keep going until he's 34, 35. And the offer from the Middle East is going to come anyway. I'm someone from the Middle East. Mo Salah is the biggest name to come out of this region, of the MENA region, like in our entire lifetime, and probably ever. So like the offer is going to come regardless.
The biggest Arab player I've ever seen, or Arab
100%.
kind of player.
So if he's 35, 36, 37, he's going to get the offer regardless. Now, will it be 200 million? No. But at the same time, I don't trust my club to get the proper replacement. I mean, we saw it. We sold Fabinho. We bought Endowen. So I can't trust the club to get the proper replacement. So I'd rather keep him. It's not about the money. It's about where you want your team to be. Had we taken that, if you're offering me a Michael Edwards scenario in which we take the money and use it properly and buy 2-3 world-class players, I'm like, okay. But also the problem is 175 million ain't like 175 million from 5 years
ago. It don't go too far these days, because everyone's going to know Liverpool's got money, and if a player was 40 million, they're going to tell you 80 now. Exactly. Exactly.
So
it don't go too far.
All these players come well as well. That's another problem.
Exactly. So what, a year from now, all right, let's just say we zoom past this season. We're sitting here in August the whatever, 2024. 200 million's on the table for Salah. You're not doing that. He's a year older. You're not doing that at all.
It
Not that it's
depends.
your money or whatever. I quite agree with your logic in that. I do think people don't see the flip side of the money thing in that, you know, you're going to have to find a replacement. And obviously you're going to need to win football games, really. But 200 million for what? He'd probably be 32, maybe 33 next year
32.
on the decline in theory.
It depends what happens this season. If this season we build and we're a lot better and like, I don't know, we win the Europa and the FA Cup and we challenge and we finish second, then no, I wouldn't sell him because I'd want us to build on that and I'd want us to win the league.
And to be honest with you, with that, obviously, when it came to Mane and Salah new deals, you know, I'm sure you would have loved to have kept Mane, but because of the money, you was going to lean towards Salah. So when you gave him that money and that contract, that was probably knowing that, yes, there's going to be a decline. There is going to be a day it's over, but we don't necessarily want to sell him. You know, we're going to use him for what he can offer our Liverpool Football Club in that winning games. You know, he's been linked with Paris Saint-Germain, been linked with Real Madrid and Barca, been linked with Saudi. Whether some clubs or some areas or regions want to buy him more than another's a different thing, but he's always a player. And for me, to go back to what we said, he's a bagsman. And again, I don't like to waffle about numbers, but the most important statistic in football is scoring goals. Whether Liverpool had a good or bad season last year, Salah got the goals. People were saying he was underwhelming. He got the goals. A bit like when we had a Bamman, he got the goals. Harry Kane scored 30 league goals. Nobody cares about it because it's Haaland and Spurs, but regardless of whatever the weather, they're going to score. And these players win games. That's kind of what I kind of want at my football club. Someone that, regardless of what we're doing, I look in May, there's numbers there, and ultimately that helps us win games. That kind of ties us into the next question, really and truly, you know, from one player kind of getting on a bit to the other. I think this person, Andrew's asking, is Van Dijk finished? Crazy.
No, he's not. No, he's not. I think last season has changed a lot of people's minds on many players. Not me personally, because world-class players, I'm willing to give them like a bad season or a year off.
And he did have a massive injury, did he not, Van Dijk? You need to take a while to get back to that.
He did, but the first two games he's proven that he's back to at least, like, listen, 70-80% Van Dijk is still better than like 99% of the centre backs in the league. Like 80% Van Dijk is still unbelievable.
It's
so for me,
the Van Dijk he once was, yeah.
Yeah, but we don't need Ballon d'Or Van Dijk to win something.
No, I agree with you in that even 80%, you know, is still Van Dijk, really and truly. And I think Van Dijk's one of those players that, you know, it's a bit like what we've got with Saka and many, is that win, lose or draw, agendas are going to flow. Like they're trending topics, they're talkative topics. Van Dijk's sick, man, really and truly.
Yeah, he is. I don't think he's finished. He's finished is a crazy statement. I think he's still a very, very, very good Premier League level centre back. He could definitely be a centre back that wins the league. So for me, I look at him as a quality of player who can do all of that. So yeah, I don't think he's finished. I think it's exaggerated, as you said. It's just the usual agendas, you know. It is what it is.
Unfortunately, that's where we live in, man. Last question in the fan segment, people that ask us questions. Can either Liverpool or Arsenal win a domestic cup this season? Speaking for Arsenal, I'd say I hope so. I want the FA Cup. The FA Cup is the one thing I'll talk about with chess. Of course, I want to win the champs and the Prems, but that's our trophy. I want to win that. And I personally think since we last won that, we've embarrassed ourselves in that. So I want a domestic. I want a trophy of any sort. And I'm sure many fans would say the same, man. Where you at with that? Do you think you can do something?
You know, I love the fact that I'm a Liverpool fan. You just said the FA Cup is what I talk about with chest. It's usually the Champions League what I talk about with chest.
I mean, I would love to be able to say that, but yeah, we ain't got a chain in that.
I hated that comp either. So it's a Thursday night thing for me. So it's going to be a long day every Thursday night. You know, here's the problem, Deluded. In the Middle East, our weekend is not Saturday, Sunday. Our weekend is Friday, Saturday. So usually Thursday nights we go out. So now I can't even go
you
Thursday
can forget
night.
about that, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to go like, hello, everyone. Welcome to This Is Football. Please come watch Liverpool versus Last Cleanse in the Europa League. Like, everyone's like, we sit up here. All my friends calling me and shit. I'm like, I'm watching the Europa League. Oh, my God. But can we win a domestic trophy? Yeah, why not? Listen, if we get a draw like Man United did, Charlton and Blackburn and Sheffield and shit, why can't we win a cup too? So
to be fair,
we just need one of them United deal with the devil cards where they just play the deal with the devil. They get like 3-4 easy draws in a row. You know they didn't deserve that.
Yeah,
shit.
man. Listen, Sally Ferguson's still paying his direct debits, man. He's still paying what needs to be paid.
Do you see that United ad? Do you see that United ad?
Yeah. That was scary, man. Yeah. That was crazy.
That's mad. That's mad. That's mad.
Oh man! Obviously, moving on. Yeah. Obviously, I've asked you about the new look midfield. I've asked you what you're missing. What have you made of actually Liverpool start to the season? Because just by browsing the results, healthy return, but one clean sheet, are you lot concerned? What's the good, bad, and the ugly? How are you lot feeling 4 games in?
You're probably someone who would recognize what I'm about to say more than anyone. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Amen. Starting with 3 wins out of 4 means F all in the long run, because it matters what happens in April and March and May. That's why I'm one of those level-headed guys, not gonna sit up here and go like, oh, all the negative people, where are you? I'm like, guys, it's 4 games into the season. That's why when you ask me about Liverpool, what did I mention?
34 games left,
depth.
man.
Exactly. When you ask me, what did I mention? I mentioned depth. I mentioned, our options on the bench, because I'm already looking at March. I'm looking at April. I'm looking at May. I'm not looking at this point in time in the season. I expect us to beat Villa at home and Bournemouth at home and what's their name? Newcastle. Fair enough. Newcastle hype.
I said no. You got to pat them on the back. That's a serious Newcastle. Yeah, they're not quite Newcastle of last year, but yeah, man.
Ooh, that Alisson save from Almiron. Alisson, my keeper, man.
Alisson's sick. Alisson is sick. You know what it is with Alisson? I feel last season, maybe not so much Liverpool fans, but fans in general, it's like people wanted to kind of suggest he's fallen off. And just by watching Liverpool at times, there were times you lot lost or times you lot won. And he's never going to get the praise because you're not a goal scorer. You're not the poster boy. You don't get the YouTube views. But Alisson kept you in it. And I think, again, we've spoken about this before. When I look at when Klopp first walked into Liverpool and he was kind of, in a positive way, a bit naive. I'm going to play the same way from minute 0 to 90. He then recognized game management. I think the seasons before, just before you brought in Alisson and Van Dijk, you started to defend a lot better. Then them lot came into a system and enhanced that. And it's true. I only say that to say that, you can't achieve anything without a very good keeper and a very good defense. And obviously your defense isn't quite like that now, and they're not to blame. But football's a simple game, innit? It's complicated by idiots. You can see what was going on in that regards, man. You're right, still.
100%. I think, look, it's a fantastic start to the season. Long may it continue. I hope I'm wrong about everything I say about my football club, but at the end of the day, when you watch football for as long as I've been watching football 20 years now, I know it's about depth, it's about the long run. So we should keep this going as much as possible. But yeah, it's about just continuing the form. And the problem is, once again, the depth situation. So let's hope we get as less injuries as possible. That's the one thing I can hope for.
And like you said there, man, because I do think, I don't know about Liverpool fans, but speaking for Arsenal fans, I think some Arsenal fans want to have it both ways. I think they cry about, yeah, we need depth, we need this, we need that. But then if their favorite player or player they want isn't in the lineup, they're done out here, they need to leave, they're not going to play, blah, blah, blah. And I get that 4 games into the season, I can understand why some fans that don't see football in the way we and people viewing this I can get that. But once it starts getting to the end of the year, the beginning of the new year, you're getting to latter stages, there's injuries, there's loss of form, there's all these things. That's where you need depth. That is where you need these players. And I think, as you kind of touched on at the beginning, football's kind of gone in a way that it's not really a settled 11. You need a squad. You need kind of like for like changes and things. And I think that's something historically Pep Guardiola's done a lot better than other people. You either do it like Pep or you do it kind of how you lot did it. Don't know how you did it, but you have a smaller squad, but your players, for whatever reason, are not really picking up injuries. The Salahs, the Manes, the Firminos. Obviously, Van Dijk had a mad injury, but he wasn't picking up the little niggling ones that a Thiago or a Melo might. So it makes sense, really and truly. Moving on, though, man, I want to ask you a quick, I'm trying something. I want to do a fire round, yeah? There's no explanation. Just 2 names, just pick, yeah? Firstly, Konate or Saliba?
Konate.
That's just to get the juices flowing, man. Obviously, I'm gonna go with William Saliba. Pedri or Jude Bellingham?
Pedri.
I'm gonna go with Pedri as well, and I'm a big Bellingham fan. I feel like I'm snaking him. Saka or Foden?
Saka, 100%.
Do you know what? Saka, forgive me, but it's Foden. I have to. I think Foden's a golden boy. I take nothing away from Saka. Foden is special, man. Saka's special as well, but Foden is something different, man. Like Foden, the only thing I would say with Foden, to kind of gas Saka, I know Saka could do what he's doing in a City shirt. I don't know if Foden could do what Saka is doing in an Arsenal shirt. He probably could, but I'm pushing agendas. In their prime, not that, you could argue Trent hasn't entered his prime yet, but prime Trent or prime Kyle Walker?
Trent, 100%. Trent, 100%. Change the game for us.
Me, because Walker was quite the player, but I'm going to go with Trent only because I think Walker's a lot more all-rounded, but what Trent brings for all of his faults, I like what he brings. So there's that.
He's also half Jamaican, so if you don't go for Trent...
Yeah, let's go. I didn't even know that with Trent. Forget what I said about Walker. Trent, my guy. Forget all of that. Yeah, shameless agendas. Trent, my guy, man. You know, you got a big up H for gas in it. Fabinho or Partey?
Fabinho or Partey? I mean, last season it was Partey, but if we're saying overall, it's probably Fabinho.
I'm gonna go with the guy that bossed you lot off the park for Atletico Madrid and go with Partey. Still, I have to push Arsenal agendas. Bit of a Liverpool one. When you won the Premier League or when you won the Champions League under Klopp?
The Premier League for me. Because the Champions League, we always had 05 Istanbul, and I was a 10-year-old at the time, so I enjoyed the shit out of that win. But for me, like, that Premier League win was something else, because it was always like this close, and we never quite got there.
With it, yeah.
There. Yeah, it was unbelievable feeling. But the Champions League, because of the 4-0 against Barcelona, the 4-0 against Barcelona is what
you made Alba cry as well. If you've seen the footage, Alba started crying. That's crazy from Alba. Do you know what? I would go with it. If I was a Liverpool fan, I'd say the Prem because there was a drought. But as a neutral in this, I'm gonna say Champions League because you stopped a certain team down the road from winning that with their new stadium. We wouldn't. Thank you for that. We wouldn't have had a leg to stand on. All right, this is where it gets a bit interesting. Patrick Vieira or Gerrard?
I think.
No explanations, my guy. The names.
I think Steven Gerrard's the greatest ever Premier League midfielder, and he's the only Liverpool player I have as number one in his position in Prem history. So for me, Gerrard is over.
What, the greatest one? Has he won the Prem? I didn't even know that. I don't know if he won the Prem.
Has R9 won the champs?
Listen, we whispered that. Vieira's got the World Cup, but listen, it's cool. Arsenal won the World Cup with France. I'm gonna go with Patrick. Thierry Henry or Mo Salah? Prime Premier League.
Thierry Henry is the greatest Premier League player of all time. So I'm going Thierry Henry.
Oh, you let me down. I thought you go with Salah, but I'm going to go Henry. Alisson or Edison?
Oh, Alisson. All day, every day. Get flappy hands out of my face, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Alisson Becker. Are you mad? Come on.
Do you know what? For me, I'll go Alisson. But I think Edison's kicking's a lot better. But I think Alisson's more what I want to see from a goalie. He more knows that I'm a goalie. I think if you asked Edison if he wants to, not to knock him, if you asked him if he wanted to be a centre half, he'd probably want to participate. I think Alisson just knows I'm a goalie. I do my thing. That's about it. Van Dijk or Diaz?
Ruben?
Yeah.
Van Dijk.
Fair enough. Yeah. Wenger, last one. Wenger or Klopp?
I think Klopp, because Klopp has won in Europe. They both have 3 league titles, but Klopp has a Champions League. So I'm going to go with Jurgen Klopp. If it's in the Prem, then I think obviously it's Wenger. But overall,
I'm going to have to go with Wenger, but I think Klopp had something over Wenger in the sense of Wenger's loyalty obviously cost him. And I do think, like you said, man, when you think of Wenger, he's too good of a manager to only have got to a Champions League final once. And historically at Arsenal, let's be honest, we've unfortunately embarrassed ourselves in all the nominations of European finals, really and truly. For a club like us, we should have a better pedigree. Last question, in fact, because it's actually a neutral. And I think Arsenal and Spurs fans are kind of going at this. So last one of the fire round. Odegaard or James Maddison? Come on, man. Big up Maddison, but come on, man. I'm
not saying this because I'm on an Arsenal channel, but I think it has to be Odegaard.
Maddison can't talk to Odegaard. Maddison's a baller. Don't make no mistake. I'm being a bit sour because he plays for Spurs, but the IQ, the intelligence, bro, it's got to be Odegaard, man. Like, I would love that Maddison in the team, to be fair. And, you know, there was a time where allegedly it was Maddison or Odegaard. So I'm not too sure, man. My last question for you before I let you get out of it, it's a bit of a neutral one. What do you make of Southgate with Maguire and Foden?
Southgate is the exact reason.
Look at his face, people. He went back.
Not going to win anything. England are not going to win anything under Southgate, and they will never. He just has the face of a loser, just like Harry Kane's face at Spurs. You could just tell he just doesn't know what he's doing. You know what it is? In the international break, sometimes you're bored, deluded. Sometimes you're just bored, right? So I switched on the England-Scotland game. Why am I saying Maguire and Gallagher and players like that?
Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice in a pivot together is crazy.
Calvin Phillips. Big 2020.
I don't know how Calvin Phillips is in the squad personally. He's playing favourites.
Even you as Arsenal fans, I know he took Nketiah, so he just took him on work experience, like just hang out.
Yeah, he took him so Ghana don't call him up, really and truly. I was thinking that, in that 10 minutes left, you can't just give the man his cap, just let him run around and get the Instagram caption. Why are you bringing on Wilson? I don't get it, man. I really don't.
Yeah, and that's pretty self-explanatory. England ain't gonna win in nothing under Southgate, and until he leaves, they've just done Sven Goran Eriksson all over again, which has wasted another golden generation. Because if you're talking talent-wise as a squad, I know people in hindsight might think I'm crazy, but headed into the Euros, the Euro 2021, headed into the World Cup, people were looking at England's squad as probably one of the strongest available. But Southgate's a bum, so for me, he's just some of the players I'm seeing get on the pitch. Like honestly, he said he won't pick them based on like favoritism, and then he just goes and does favoritism.
And then he
There's no reason for Harry Maguire to be playing for
hypocrite.
any national team in 2023. Like, where are we going with this?
I feel, do you know what? I'm starting to feel sorry for Maguire, you know. Like, obviously, I enjoy the banter and things, but it's harsh, man. You know, Arsenal fans chanting you coming on, your own fans don't like you. To be fair, England fans were supporting him, Scottish fans weren't. And he seems at that stage now where, you know, in life, when everything just goes wrong, like, what are the chances that you're going to come on and the own goal is scored by you? I mean, pretty high, but I'm starting to feel sorry for the Don and think now you shouldn't be in the squad now. Like, it's not fair. I mean, if you genuinely have your head held high and stuff, then Maguire is a very strong mentality sort of individual. But I feel sorry for him, man. I agree with your point against Southgate in that. Do you know what? I actually think I'm harsh on Southgate because I feel on one hand, he should do a lot more. You know, he's a conservative coach, bare great attackers. You should do a lot more. But in my 28 years, this is probably the best I've seen England in terms of managing expectations and on paper, getting through to certain competitions or getting through to the latter stages. And I also asked myself, what do I honestly expect England to do? Do I genuinely expect them to win the World Cup or Euros? Probably not. So it's like, how can I really get at Southgate when I dispel my own logic? Even though I agree.
The one against
Italy, we should have done a thing there. But it's penalties, though, man. Obviously, Saka, Sancho, and Rashford missed. But to be fair, it was down to penalties. Like, I can't get in for that. Like, it's the luck of the draw, really. Like, if I play devil's advocate, really. Like, and he got to a final, bro.
England were dominating Italy. And then Southgate, once again, just showed his same coward usual self and just
I'm more disappointed with him against France at the World Cup, if I'm honest with you. I think that's where he showed cowardly with some of his decisions.
And I think he was cowardly against Italy. And I think Italy as well, let's not forget, literally 3 months later failed to qualify to the World Cup to begin with.
Ain't that the last 2 World Cups they ain't been part of, really. So, Italy's going through a bit of a drought.
North Macedonia knocked them out. So I am going to blame Southgate for that one, personally. I don't think it's just penalties. I think it's his cowardice. Should have just went for the net.
You're right, still. What do you make of his comments around Phil Foden and his reluctance to use him in the middle? Because I believe Phil Foden can play central midfield. But on the other hand, I looked online, I think today, and he's played 200 odd times for City. He's played 4 times in central midfield. And he did say Pep doesn't play him there. I can't. Has he got any, in your opinion, has he got a leg to stand on with that logic?
No, he doesn't have a leg to stand on because Klopp doesn't play Trent in midfield and he decided to play him in midfield. So he can hold that.
I completely forgot that. True, yeah.
Southgate can hold that respectfully. Phil Foden, first of all, I'm so disappointed. All Arsenal fans watching. Remember, I voted Saka, he voted Foden. So please, I didn't vote Foden. You know, just saying. No, because you know what it is. At the start, you were like, "Oh, we got the PFA young player, Saka." Eh?
And Saka's the guy. But I just feel Foden is. Listen, I've been a big fan of Phil Foden, innit?
For Man City, Saka starts for Man City.
Yeah, Saka does.
Saka does. Yeah, but Foden is so amazing. Why is his bum just printed on the bench then? Exactly.
This is what I don't get it, because I think if it was at any other team, I feel Phil Foden plays in it. I don't know if it's a lack of trust. I don't know if the players are better. And that's why I asked you, I was like, is Southgate really wrong? Because he said Pep doesn't play in there. Pep gets the luxury of working with him all week. Obviously, Southgate doesn't. Whatever we think about Southgate, the vast majority of his time is just watching players. You get a week or 2 to train with them, so I can understand it. Where I disagree with Southgate is because, a bit like what you said with Trent, I remember when he wasn't really using Grealish, and he said Grealish defensively isn't really good. Pep used him, and he's improved defensively, so that kind of went out the woodwork. I just don't think he wants to gamble on Foden in the midfield. And if I'm honest with you, I do like a Jude Bellingham or Foden or Rice or whatever have you in midfield. But when I break it down and the ball game that's international football and it's like the highest level you can get to and the margins for errors are quite small, oh, is Jude Bellingham, Foden and Rice a mature enough midfield individually? I'm not in agreement with it, but I could understand why he might lean towards the Henderson and things like that. I mean, surely I agree with you, because I think Foden flattered to deceive at the last Euros. I think he's so good of a player. I don't understand why he's not playing beyond the obvious and week in, week out. And it's a bit of an enigma in that you've got this golden boy, but for club and country, you know, he's a bit of a sideman. He's a peripheral figure. I do think there'll come a time where he's starring for both of them, but I don't know, man. I just think, as you said at the start, you've got all these exciting players.
5 years. Time ain't come yet. We've been saying it though. Am I lying? We've been saying he's going to be
23 now, so it's time to show up now.
Yeah. So for me, look, I understand where Southgate's coming from and stuff, but I think England's attack. You're saying he's there watching. I don't think he's watching good enough, because bringing on Maguire and Phillips and Conor Gallagher, and I'm supposed to think you're
yeah, the Conor Gallagher one. I don't know what it is with Southgate, man. It's like you've just got to be one of them guys that just flies into tackles for him to really take a shot into you.
I think the best midfield they have is probably Rice, Bellingham, and Maddison. That would be the best in midfield three for me.
Maddison over Foden, you reckon? I don't agree,
yes.
man.
You're just
doing
the I hate
Spurs play.
You're just doing the I hate Spurs thing, 100%. 100%. That's why you can't say to that smiling. You can't say to that smiling. You know it's the Spurs hatred inside you.
No,
you know.
Listen, once you sign for them lot, I can't help you in it. You play for them lot down the road. But I think Foden's better than you. Like, I don't think anyone can disagree. I don't think Maddison's better than Foden. I don't think he's better than Odegaard. I think he can talk to them. I think he's a great player. I like his attitude. I think that's something why Maddison could play, is like he wants that responsibility. He plays with a positive chip on his shoulder. And I think, you know, you look at one thing about Harry Maguire, for example, is, you know, if you put corners in and set pieces and dead balls in, he might just score. Maddison could obviously eat off that, really and truly. And if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be a bit disappointed in that. You've probably robbed Harry Kane of setting a record for league goals, give or take, with Haaland. And Maddison with Harry Kane maybe could have got close to Thierry Henry's record for assists, because it's almost a cash money sort of link up. So I don't know, really and truly, man, if I'm honest.
Let Harry go win a trophy in Germany, man. He's 39.
Yeah, he's got a stat pad now, man. He's been there too long. He's going to make up for time.
Let him get a medal at least. Come on, man. Even I got a medal.
even I got a medal, blood. Hey, you know what? My last question for you, yeah, only because I saw it on my timeline as we were talking. You lot keep getting linked with Kylian Mbappe. Are you hopeful?
You know, if you open the newspaper tomorrow, you're gonna see a link between the Don Husam 6 and Rihanna. ASAP Rocky is gone. She just DM'd me on Instagram. She's like, I love your accent. I love your beard. I've always wanted an Arab man. So Rihanna is 100% gonna be in my arms this time next year. So just watch out for that. That's my reaction to your question.
This guy, man. On that note, bro, there's nothing more I can ask you. I appreciate you for giving up your time. Before I let you get out of here, man, let people know where they can find you. Have you got any content to come out? Always information will be in the description and in the title if you're not listening at this moment in time. But let's hear it from the guy himself, man.
Big up for having me, first of all. Big up everyone watching. You will see me with Rihanna soon. Make no mistake.
Well, that's a great analogy. I can't even lie.
There's a bigger chance of me ending up with Rihanna than Liverpool ending up with Mbappe. So, look, big up for having me, Deluded. Big up everyone who's watching. Make sure you're slapping the likes. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel as well. You can find me at This Is Football. The Twitter is at the Don Husam 6. I usually run spaces. We speak a lot on football. So I do watch-alongs. I do a lot of football content. It's a challenge for everyone. As you guys saw, I chose Saka over Foden. When he's
never going to let me live that down, man.
Never going to let you live that down. So, yeah, big up for having me, though.
My guy, let me let you get out of it. As the man himself said here, people, make sure you're subscribing, you're smashing the like button, you're commenting all your thoughts, you're following all the socials. We're out. Peace.
There's always just that accurate defending. I think it's like